Stop me if you've heard this before. Kyle Larson dominates at Bristol. Was it a good race? And I think Fox forgot it was the last lap. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. You're getting this video on Monday morning because, well, we had a bit of a dog emergency at the Break Hard household on Sunday night when I would typically post these. My dog Nate was roughhousing with one of the other dogs in the neighborhood, just typical play date, and that dog went to kick to get up and caught Nate right underneath the eye with a claw and kind of just gashed him open right now. I don't have the Wolverine claws apparently on this thing. Just about a 1 inch, had to get 2 stitches, but had to go to the emergency vet for it. And of course, if you've done that before, you know it takes a while, and I haven't slept much either. So you guys are getting whatever comes to my mind today. Yes, today. Before we get into the Bristol stuff, Tony Stewart picked up his first ever NHRA Top Fuel win on Sunday in Las Vegas at the 4-Wide Nationals out there. What can't this guy win in? NASCAR Cup Series, Truck Series, Xfinity Series, IROC, SRX, Sprint Cars, Non-Wing Sprints, USAC, Silver Crown, IROC. Dude just wins in everything. IndyCar, can't forget IndyCar here. He just wins, and he picked up his first NHRA win, so tip of the cap to him. I'll be at Norwalk at the end of June for the NHRA event, so hope to see some people out there for that one. Now, let's get into what we want to talk about today, and that is Kyle Larson putting an absolute slobber knocker on the field Sunday at Bristol, where he dominated once again. It is now Kyle Larson's house, and it's the Kyle Larson show. Not as entertaining as a Truman Show, I'll be completely honest, but he went out there and led 411 laps on Sunday, ran away from the field early, like he was the bandit and Smoking the Bandit, and Denny Hamlin got to play the role of Buford T. Justice, and he just could never catch the bandit. Thankfully, he didn't have a stupid son alongside of him to give us comic relief, which honestly would have really helped out on Sunday because the booth was bad, the race wasn't very good. It's just an all-around not great race. From the top, though, what am I going to give this? I'm probably going to give this race about a 47. It was not good. It was bad. That's my lowest rate of the season. People are always like, oh, you never give races a bad review. NASCAR's paying you to say this. Yeah, you're right. They're paying me. They're lying in my pockets right now. They're not. But this was a bad race. Is it the worst race at Bristol we've ever seen? No. That's why it doesn't get a lower rate than this. Sometimes drivers just hit on it, right? Sometimes the setup, the car, and the driver all line up perfect, and you have absolute dominating performances like we saw from Kyle Larson on Sunday. And that's what happened. Unfortunately, the last race at Bristol that everybody, saw was the Bristol night race last year, where he led 462 laps. So you combine it all together here, and the guys led 873 laps over the last 2 events out of 1,000. And people are just kind of tired of it at this point. Throw in the fact that we all went into Sunday's race with this anticipation of having this chaotic tire race where tires are going to wear out after 40 or 50 laps. And we were met with not that. We basically could have done the entire race on 3 sets of tires if they wanted to, and the tires just did not wear. But let's get into the race real quick. We started off, and it was actually kind of entertaining at first, and people are going to be like, oh, it was like old Bristol, because everybody was just hugging the bottom, running about 3/4 throttle as they were trying to figure out, are these tires going to wear or not? Then about the 40 lap mark hit, and that's typically when we would see these tires start to wear, and well, guess what? They weren't wearing. So Justin Haley was the first one to fire off, and he drove all the way up to second, just driving as he normally would, while everybody else was trying to be cautious. And then Kyle Larson was like, all right, well, Justin Haley can do it. I can do it as well. And he unleashed the 5 car like he was that dinosaur in Jurassic World, and became feast season. And he was out there and just absolutely jumped out to about a 1.5 1.7 second lead. And realistically, that was the last time that anybody would see Kyle Larson for most of the day. He would go on to win stage number 1 and just really assert himself and show everybody else, hey, this is going to be his show the entire day. Alex Bowman was the pole sitter. He had his engine expire just before the lap 300 mark. Brutal for him, because they definitely had a top 5 car on speed most of the day. Engine decided to blow up, kind of like a Rick Barnes coach team in March Madness. Just unfortunate. You had high expectations, and then you were met with this at the end of it here. There were only 3 cautions during this entire race too, and 2 of those were for stage breaks. The first stage break took nearly 20 laps. That's an absolutely ridiculously long time. Hopefully we get that shortened up in the meantime, because that was too long. The only caution for incident was Shane Van Gisbergen and Cody Ware getting tangled up, and somebody tweeted me and said, hey, it's time to have a conversation about SVG. It's not. Trackhouse knew he was going to struggle. He knew he was going to struggle. He's in the Cup Series this year to win on a road course and get them into the playoffs. And when we get back to a road course, guess what? He's going to just be good once again, which I guess, Mexico's the next one? Obviously, Chicago is where everybody's going to probably bank on him, picking up that win at. We had a weird incident as well on Sunday, where John Hunter Nemechek was driving down pit lane after his pit stop and the left rear tire decided it didn't want to be a part of the team anymore. The same way Tennessee decided they didn't want their quarterback to be part of the team this weekend. It rolled off, hit the back of Daniel Suarez's car. Thankfully, didn't hit any of his crew members. At the same time, Daniel Suarez's crew had an uncontrolled tire on the right front, and the way Fox kind of explained it made it seem like they didn't even notice the tire hit the back of his car, which they did, but the clip that went viral from it made it seem like they just had no idea there, which was honestly peak Fox for most of the day. From there, the last stage of the race went 250 laps green. No cautions in the final stage of the race. The longest green flag run for the Cup Series in the stage era. The longest green flag run for the Cup Series, I believe, since 1997. I could be wrong there, but it was definitely a very, very long time. But from there, it was just the Kyle Larson show in all of stage 3. 250 laps in stage 3 and 250 green flag laps. Not a single caution in stage number 3. The longest green flag run at Bristol since I believe August of 2004. The longest green flag run in the stage era for NASCAR, and I think the longest green flag run since Dover in 2016, I believe. Either way, a really, really long run to the end of the race there. And we had green flag pit stops. Kyle Larson, everybody else pitted. Ryan Blaney ran long to the point where he had the entire field a lap down and he was hoping, praying for a caution. Eric Jones almost maybe gave it to him, but there was really nothing there. He eventually pits. He still finishes up with a P5 finish. Kyle Larson re-inherits the lead and Kyle Larson was gone after that. His day ended with him in victory lane. Hendrick Motorsports, of course, gets to honor John Edwards, who was their director of communications, longtime PR guy for Jeff Gordon and for Kyle Larson, unexpectedly passed away last week. So Hendrick Motorsports always seems to rise to the occasions when they have a tragedy within their company, which unfortunately has been a number of times over the years. So they got that cool moment there. But overall, this race just not a very good race. There was some passing, but when you have a tire that doesn't wear and you have a spec car where everybody's running in the relative same lap times, it's very difficult to pass. Sure, some people definitely were able to make passes. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs were all able to make passes, pretty easily. We also had guys like William Byron, who started P26, and then you had Ross Chastain, who started P35. They ended up finishing 6 and 7. So cars could drive through the field on Sunday. It was just difficult for more than others. So one of the big things about Bristol, especially progressive banking Bristol, is with the Gen 6 car, you had basically 3 distinct lines. You could run all the way up against the wall or all the way on the bottom. And typically when guys were battling for a position, one guy would die to the bottom, one guy would roll the top. And it kind of became like dirt racing where you're kind of going back and forth off the corner. And it was pretty entertaining. With the Gen 7 car, that's just really not there. And the PJ1 certainly didn't help on Sunday by the looks of it. So there's a lot of things that need to happen here. Probably with the car. It's not a track problem. Don't talk about putting dirt on it. Don't try to mask the issue here. The problem's with the car, the problem's with the tires that don't wear out. We either have a race where the tires are just absolutely wearing off immediately and turns into complete chaos, or we have a race where the tires don't wear out at all and we can go half the race on one set of tires. There's got to be a better in between here, and it sounds like the big difference was about 15 degrees in track temperature. The track would have been 15 degrees cooler on Sunday. We probably see what we saw in 2024. Because it was 15 degrees hotter, we saw what we saw from last year's night race, which was just Kyle Larson dominating, these tires not wearing out at all. Maybe there's a conversation to be had about, repaving the track in asphalt. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing that probably. It would look weird, but I think it would be for the better in the long run. But the problem is with the car. The problem is with the fact that the car doesn't race very well here. It gets, too caught up in dirty air, which there's always going to be dirty air, right? But when you're talking about at a short track, that's really frustrating. And then you have a tire that just isn't wearing out. So yeah, I think it's a 2-part problem. I have no idea what the solution is for this. What we do know out of the Gen 7 car is it races really well on road courses. It races really well on intermediates. Not so much at super speedways, not so much at road or at short tracks. The Gen 6 car raced really well at short tracks, road courses, and super speedways. Not good at intermediates. So there's this handoff that you have to try to do here. NASCAR needs to try to mitigate this short track problem because I would hate to lose Bristol or one of the Bristol dates off of the calendar or any short track for that matter. NASCAR needs a diverse schedule and we need to keep short tracks alive. We need to add short tracks, but we need to make the package better at this point. So we'll see what comes of it, but Kyle Larson wins the race. Some honorable mentions from the top 10. Larson wins, Denny Hamlin second, Ty Gibbs third, much needed top 5 for that team. Chase Briscoe in 4th, Ryan Blaney 5th, William Byron 6th, Ross Chastain 7th, Christopher Bell 8th, all 4 Joe Gibbs Racing cars in the top 8. I think that deserves to be noted there. AJ Allmendinger, that Kaulig Racing team, is bringing speed to the racetrack. They are in the playoffs right now on points. He finishes the last car in the lead lap, only 9 cars in the lead lap at the end of this race. People are going to complain about that, which makes me realize that I guess most people didn't watch in the 90s and the early 2000s because things like this would happen a lot. And then you have Austin Dillon, that 3-team top 10 finish for them. Carson Hocevar, Justin Haley, P11 and P13. Those cars had a lot of speed all day. Probably should have finished in the top 10. Hocevar probably could have flirted with a top 5. Had a really bad pit stop there at the end. Car fell off the jack. They struggled mightily to put that left rear tire on. And Josh Berry in 12th. That Wood Brothers team continues to have speed. I don't think it was the cars last year. But overall, 47. Not a very good race. One thing that also wasn't very good on Sunday was the Fox booth because, boy, they just certainly didn't seem to have it all together. Audio issues continue. I guess they just refuse to acknowledge the fact that the boost sounds off. I don't know if they took the boost out of their voices, the amplifier. I'm not really sure what it is, but their voices sound completely flat. There's something off there, and for like the 4th race in a row, they just don't seem to care. So I'm done caring. I'm done complaining about it because they obviously don't seem to think that there is an issue there. All right, fine. It comes down to the last lap of the race, though. And honestly, I don't think the booth knew it was the last lap of the race. I think they forgot because they were yucking it up like it was the middle of the race still. And Mike Joy doesn't do his winner call for Kyle Larson until he's on the backstretch of the cooldown lap going into turns 3 and 4. And it's very perplexing. And I saw people on the internet be like, yeah, but Clint was talking over him because I posted the clip on Twitter. And it's like, okay, but that falls on the producer and the director. They absolutely need to cut off his mic when you get down to the final 2 laps because it's Mike Joy's job to call the finish of these races. That's what he's paid to do. He needs to do that. And he can't do that when Clint's just out here talking about anything and everything. Clint's a nice guy. He needs to shut up in the closing laps of the race, but I genuinely think they forgot it was the closing laps of the race. So Mike Joy finally calls it, Larson the winner as he's about to complete his cooldown lap. Perplexing here. And one of the biggest, annoyances for me is I saw a lot of people in the replies to the video that I posted that were like, yeah, the call matched the excitement of the race. So why would they have an exciting call to end the race when the race was so bad? Because it's their job. They need to call the winner across the finish line there. What are you talking about? Formula One races are decided in the first corner. Monaco's decided on Saturday. They still get an exciting call to the finish line for the winner. What are we talking about here? Like, yes, you need to call the winner across the line. And honestly, they need to put more energy into it because that's going to make people more excited to tune in. If you make it sound exciting, there's a certain subset of fans or casual viewers that are tuning in that will believe it's exciting. You and I know it wasn't exciting. We knew this race was decided 50 laps into it, essentially. But not everybody knows that. So you need to call these races as if people are watching it for the first time and be excited about it. And unfortunately, they just were not. I don't know. It's very on brand for Fox. They just continue to do things that leave you scratching your head for most of the day. But there's only a few races left with them. We got Talladega, Texas, Kansas, and then the All-Star race, right? So we're almost there. Got about a month left of them, and then they'll be gone. So they'll come back again next year, unfortunately. They're like perennials. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I had those flowers. Now they're up everywhere and taking up the entire flower bed. Whatever. They'll go away soon enough, right? So let me know in the comments what you thought about Larson dominating the overall race. What would you rate it as? And did Fox forget it was the last lap? Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok @BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @BreakHardBlog.